This week on Issues, support for sex crime victims. Who may they turn to? What type of support is available? Are there free services available? All questions are answered.
The Victim Services Division in the Ministry of Justice is one of the clear answers the government has provided to provide support. Its main thrust is to coordinate the support base for victims of crime.
Also today, drones in the fields. We'll look at these flying objects and their use in the agricultural sector. This is Jamaica Magazine, and I'm Adrian Atkinson. Stay with us for those features and others.
Violence against women and girls is a human problem, not just a woman's problem. It's a problem for men too. Gender violence takes many forms, including sexual assault, domestic violence, relationship abuse, sexual harassment, and sexual abuse of children. The magnitude of ongoing violence against women and children in our country is cause for alarm. We can end the violence. It requires all of us to end the violence. I call on all our men and women in Jamaica to take a stand. And men especially must get involved in this movement to create a better world for their daughters, their mothers, their sisters, their aunts, their uncles, their fathers, their sons, and for themselves. Let's protect and reassure. Let's unite to end gender violence.
Last week, the country joined the world in observing International Women's Day. In the midst of honoring women and girls, we heard the stories of abuse rendered onto them. Thankfully, there's an organization that offers assistance to the victims of sex crimes. The issues and answers next.
Thanks for joining us for Issues and Answers. I'm Ian Boyne. Today we want to address the issue of rape, child sexual violence, domestic violence, some critical issues that are facing us as a nation. And we want to see what mechanisms does the government have in dealing with these issues. We have with us today the director of the Victim Services Division of the Ministry of Justice, Reverend Osborne Bailey, and he'll be telling us what his division is doing and what it is set up to accomplish. We thank you so much for your company. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Reverend Bailey.
And congrats is in order.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. We are in a crisis when it comes to our children and our women. And one of the things people want to know, Reverend Bill, is how is the government dealing with it? Does the government have structures to deal with the issues of child sexual violence, sexual abuse, and these matters?
Well,
tell us about your Victim Services Division and what you do.
Certainly, the word is crisis. Given the widespread challenge faced by persons in this country, the high levels of victimization, and not just the quantity, but the extent to which persons are now suffering, particularly our women and girls, but not limited only to. The Victim Services Division in the Ministry of Justice is one of the clear answers the government has provided to provide support. Its main thrust is to coordinate the support base for victims of crime.
So you do that.
When a person becomes a victim of a crime, that person would now have their life really being turned sometimes upside down. And there's a range of support which is required. There's emotional support. The division, which has an office in every parish, and is closely connected to the police and to the courts. And we also provide opportunity for a large amount of Jamaicans to serve as volunteers.
I see.
You can walk into any of our parish offices, or the matter is referred to us through the police or through the courts. Our friends we would have had persons who have heard of the system. We do provide services. Last year, for example, in 2016, over almost 14,000 Jamaicans were provided with support through the victim services. So we would
over
have had
13,000 persons
13,758
receive services from
received services.
that many were in need of services.
Yes,
and that many you attended to?
5,722 new clients. That means they were never seen before, and the rest in follow-ups.
Oh, we never knew that the government had an arm that had this
Yes.
kind of outreach.
Well, yes, we have been operating since 1998, and perhaps you're not going to see a billboard that will speak to what we do.
But you're in every parish.
Simply because the volume of the need is so great, and we're already doing so much as it relates to to provide support, that it's almost concerning if we had a billboard what we would do. But the government provides this support for victims, and it will provide the support from the day you become a victim of crime. It will follow you through the process. If you have to go to court, it has various innovative approaches that is designed to build your capacity to go through your victimization
It
process.
prepares people for the courts. One of the issues raised, Reverend Bailey, is that the victims, especially of rape and sexual abuse, feel further victimized when they go in the court, when they have to deal with lawyers, with police officers, some say even judges. Do you prepare, especially children, to deal with the court itself?
The court orientation program of the Victim Services Division is one which has gotten the commendation of police and court officials right across this country. It has several components. Well, even before we actually get into the court, we had a phase where we provided technical capacity building for judges and magistrates across the island, prosecutors, police officers, in understanding the dynamics when a person becomes a victim of a crime.
So you actually have an orientation program
Yes.
for judges?
Well,
and
we had is a training that the
training.
Chief Justice had felt was necessary, and she was so impressed with it that she continued to follow up at the time, and so perhaps I would say a good 90, perhaps more % of judges that are now serving were exposed. The only ones who were not exposed are those who are new to the system at the time when we offered it. So there is that. Then there is the working with court, where there's an orientation program which involves us taking particularly children to court before the court day to help them to understand the lay of the land. There is the liaison where we actually go to court with children and adults. Yes, we do. Because we actually now provide them with a sense of orientation to understand what it means to be ready for court, and we want to make clear that it's not coaching them nor interfering with the evidence and the facts of the case. This is just dealing with the psycho-emotional and the realities from going to court back and forth. And this is a program that is fully established, and there are many judges who take advantage of it. If a case is before the court and the person has not been seen by us, there have been cases where the judge may actually ask that the child or the person be sent back to victim services in order for orientation.
Let's take a break at this point. Reverend Husband Bailey, telling us of the kinds of services that are available to you were you to be in the unfortunate situation of being a victim of sexual abuse, of rape. The government actually prepares people for the court system and prepares them in a variety of ways. Reverend Bailey will tell us more when we come back from this short break.
When criminals disagree, they seek revenge. Murder, arson, rape, whatever causes terrible suffering. It doesn't matter who gets hurt. Women, children, and the elderly, they are the main targets. Don't support the criminals. Don't cover up for them. Don't take their money. Take a stand now for the right of our women and children to be free from fear and abuse. Silence brings violence.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Welcome back. Reverend Osmond Bailey is the Director of the Victim Services Division of the Ministry of Justice, a very crucial division in giving the kind of assistance needed to victims of sexual and other crimes. So there is a robust court orientation program which helps people to go through a process that some find unnerving and unsettling and so on.
Yes, if you were to just pass by, say, Half a Tree Court in the mornings when there's a court day, you can see apprehension and fear. And so it was important that we did a research, and we found out that victims were saying that the worst time in their sojourn as a victim was sometimes the apprehension of going through the court process. It's lengthy, it's different, it's
sometimes
difficult.
how they are dealt with in the court.
Right. So we felt that the way to go about that was to build into the program. The government believed that what was necessary was to build into victim services a comprehensive court support. Resources were invested to, as I say, build various elements of it, to train persons. We have volunteers that are trained to assist us. And basically we go with children, with persons and children in particular, to court, which does help in the process when they see a familiar face. And I want to reemphasize that it's not coaching, it's not interfering with the fact of the case. It is really providing a professional services to ensure that they at least feel a sense of safety to go in. And those persons who have utilized that particular component of our service would say that they feel far better when they are going through their process.
Do you have a program for schools?
Yes. We found out also that there's a number of the persons who are victims are under 18 years of age. That means school-age children. And we realized that we had to have several programs that is designed to help particular children who become victims. So for example, there is a special intervention program in schools. And this, we bring in peer counselors and parents into an arena where we provide them with capacity to understand, identify, and help persons who are victims of crime. Because sometimes the first person these children will talk to is a friend. And then the next move is to how do you tell a parent. And we build capacity in parents to understand the kind of parent they need to be so that children can feel comfortable to come to talk to them. We also realized that a number of children were being victims of sex crime, and it's traumatic. And we felt we needed to bring just these victims into group counseling to be able to deal with some of the issues. We call it an overcomers program. Instead of perceiving and going through life as a victim, despite the fact that you were a victim of a crime, you can perceive and go through life as an overcomer, and hence the name of the program. We have what is also called a cultural resocialization program, because we recognize that over time, people, as they are exposed to violence, they literally begin to become enculturated to accept it as the norm.
Desensitized.
They become extremely desensitized. It's not like a broken bone that you can see. It is something that is happening in their psyche. So cultural resocialization is an attempt to bring children in particular out of their immediate surroundings. It's a one day, but it's a very intense program to appreciate that there are some dynamics that they would need to come into counseling for. Out of these cultural resocialization sessions, children eventually now come back into counseling one-on-one. They'd realize that there is the need for counseling, and it is not the norm to live a life as a victim.
Yes. Tell us about some of the other programs that you have that are impactful.
Well, we have a West Kingston Satellite Counseling Center. We realized that West Kingston required a unique, individual set of options to approach counseling. So
and that came after May 2010?
It came after May 2010, and it actually has come out of the report as one of the things that needs to be strengthened, and the government is making effort now to strengthen the capacity of the West Kingston Counseling Center to provide support. We are bringing on board a clinical psychologist. The government is bringing on board a researcher to be able to collate some of the data. And there are a number of other things that we're doing. Government is currently helping through resources, through victim services, to develop and missing child risk assessment tool. That is to say, parents, with the help of a counselor, will be able to go through a self-reporting tool to identify the areas that your child is more likely to be vulnerable to becoming a victim of a crime or going missing. And with the self-reporting tool, it's called a Missing Child Risk Assessment Tool, you will be able to identify those areas in your child's life when they are most vulnerable, whether it is the hours or the time or when they are in the presence of, with a view to tighten up the security around each child. It's a very innovative concept. We believe when it gets out there, when it is finished, it will help it become a very useful tool.
Yes. Are there some new worrying trends that you are seeing as people are, observing what is happening in this area?
Let me say this. I've been in victim services since 1998, so I would have seen, and if we're seeing 5,000 clients per year, then we're talking about whole heap of persons. So I am at this stage able to speak to trends, and some of these trends are worrying. For example, there has been an increase in the severity of the sex crimes that are happening. In other words, the age of victims is now falling. We have seen 2- and 3-year-old children,
and
boys
the cases
and
are
girls,
growing?
and the numbers are growing. We're seeing repeat victimization. In other words, when a child finally comes in to report, when upon investigation we are finding that this child was being sexualized and molested years before, and this is increasingly. It's just that now that they're at the age where they are able to speak to it. We also are realizing that there's a correlation definitely between children who are going missing and crimes that are being committed against children. Many children are going missing because they're trying to escape.
They're running away. They're running away from the sexual abuse.
Right. The psycho-emotional impact of crime is on children in particular. We realize it's on the increase. We are seeing more anger issues, insolence issues, sexualized behaviors, suicidal tendencies, educational challenges that are on the worsening as a result of crime. And I'm sure that there are other experts who have said that they have noticed that the high level of mental instability in among children. I think that crime has something to do with it. Even the violence level in some children. We believe that there has been some evidence that they were victims of crime, but the issue was not identified, and they are now acting out in ways to defend and protect themselves. These trends are worrying, and we believe that.
And what response the division is thinking of making or recommending in light of these trends that you have observed?
Well, we would like the country to know that the Ministry of Justice has stood up to the task to provide counselors in a context where justice. It's not just about the courts. Persons can come into the victim service offices across the island. Yes, I encourage everybody to come in. I encourage persons who want to be given a free, confidential, professional counseling service to come into the office. Right? The government has made it possible for these persons who want to volunteer to the program because they train a lot of volunteers. So those persons who would want justice and don't know how to help people to get justice can volunteer their time.
So church groups, community groups,
can
come and volunteer time.
Tertiary institutions that provide training for persons who do counseling can come in and volunteer their time. And even if you cannot counsel, there are a number of other support things. You can go with a child to court. You can come in to help with some of the administrative matters. There are a number of volunteers on a monthly basis that help us to provide, hence why small staff, this is under 60, can help to provide the kind of support that we do in terms of numbers. We believe in healing and justice for all victims of crime, so there's no discrimination with regard to gender orientation or whatever it is. There is neutrality in how we provide support for
non-judgmental
There's
approach.
Non-judgmental. It's a professional counseling services that is provided by the government. And with specialized capacity to provide counseling for small children in our child counseling programs, play therapy, and so on. It has gotten commendation from victims. We have a 96% rating among the persons who we serve. 96% rating among the persons who are provided with the service say that their sojourn was made better by meeting with the operatives from Victim Services.
Victim Services Division of the Ministry of Justice, obviously doing a very important job and has an important role in a society that faces a crisis in this area. Its director, Reverend Osman Bailey, has been our guest on Issues and Answers. Next week I'll be back. Until then, Ian Bourne wishing you a pleasant day.
The use of drones is not only for entertainment purposes. There's one sector that the technology is assisting greatly to bring food from the farm to the table. Watch this.
The Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries is looking to employ the use of drone technology in the agriculture sector to provide useful data to drive production and productivity. Collaborating with the local company DNC Drones, Minister without Portfolio J.C. Hutchinson held a demonstration with farmers in Low River, Trelawney in August. It showed the farmers that the drones will be able to assess damage to their sector from natural disasters such as a flood and help them identify measures to boost crop yield.
What we are looking for the drone to do is that once we have crop damage after a hurricane or flood, we usually find that when the estimates come in, we find that the estimates are not usually correct, because many of the extension officers can't reach the areas where the damage is. With the drone, we are able to go over and identify all the crops, all the animals that have been lost, and bring back the picture within a day.
Director of DNC Drones, Nigel Davies, said this type of drone technology is called precision agriculture,
which basically is collecting data in real time, analyzing that data, and then interpreting data to advise the farmer as to the status of his crop, which is basically his nutrient contents in his crop, the moisture content in his field, and how much he has. Because this technology can also count the number of hills of yam, potato plants, tomato plants in the field. We can assess, let's say, the number of animals that died. We can measure that. We can tell you that, wait a minute, that these guys had 20 acres of yam here, and we knew that 6 months ago it was 50 hills of yams. We now can say he lost 50 hills of yams. So the drone technology is used widely in disaster management.
Other benefits of the drones include giving a clear picture of crops under production and identifying areas with irrigation needs and crops that are lacking in nutrients.
We have what we call a multispectral camera, which is this little camera on this particular drone, and it takes pictures of the plants. As you well know, plant leaves basically absorb sunlight and reflect sunlight. So this is a special camera that rejects infrared or near infrared, and then it can use that data using an algorithm to tell us how much nitrogen, how much potassium, how much phosphorus, or the lack thereof, in a plant. We also can tell you the moisture content in the field.
Now, if that can be done, we will be able to tell the farmer what needs to be done with his different crops. And with that, we are looking at seeing how we can not only increase production, but we can increase productivity. So with the technology, we are looking to see if we can bolster agriculture.
The drone demonstration in Trelawney is the first of an island-wide campaign by the Agriculture Ministry to sensitize farmers about the benefits of the technology.
We feel that it can be able to counteract predial larceny in a certain way, and we are going to see how we can get it going so that we are able to counteract predial larceny for the farmers.
We can identify cows or any animals, as the case may be, that may be hidden anywhere. Let's say, for example, Master Storm. You know Master Storm only have 5 goats in his field, but all of a sudden, in the backyard, he might have another 10. We can survey that area and identify the number of cows or goats, as the case may be, using our thermal imaging camera. We can't solve the problem, but we can aid in recovery of animals or monitor a man's farm. Minister, we're going to work with you and try to streamline the technology to ensure that we can attain that goal.
I think the drone is going to make a big difference as far as us moving forward in agriculture. I want to see a revolutionization of agriculture in this country.
We Jamaicans are a hard-working set of people, and we at the JIS know this. That's why after a hard day's work, you can simply pop onto our website, jis.gov.jm, and be in the know with government news and information. JIS, your information hub.
Am I really here in your arms? Just like I dreamed it would be. I feel like I'm frozen in time. You're the only one I can see. And hey, I took all my life for you. Now you're here. And hey, I spent all my life with you. All my life. Sing it if you know it. And I never really knew how to love. My son is not here tonight. I just thought somehow I'd see. Now I ask for a little help from above. Ooh, send an angel down to me. Hey, I put all my life for you, and now you're here. Now don't you? Hey, I spent all my life with you, all my life.
This is where we close the pages for today's show. Before we go, we leave this motivational thought with you. Believe that life is worth living, and your belief will help create the fact. Remember, the information continues to flow on our social pages. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You may also download our app from the Google Play Store, or for more features on education, click on our YouTube channel or visit our webpage, jis.gov.jn. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Happy Sunday.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.